Hello everybody. While we interviewed various businesses around the Bowling Green area, one reoccurring theme that we saw was the lack of a succession plan. By succession plan, I mean a way of the younger generation to be able to smoothly take over the family business. Unfortunately, people usually don't think about having an actual plan. Instead, they usually think, oh yeah, my son or my daughter is going to take over the business whenever I'm done. This can actually lead to a lot of confusion and a lot of failure actually when it comes to taking over that generation and that next step in taking over the business. The lack of the next gen preparation really deems for failure when it comes to taking it over. In this presentation, we will discuss some of the assumptions about succession and also some of the ways of implementing and planning that next generation to take over the business.
The first step to succession planning is to create an actual plan. Almost 7% of businesses fail or are sold within the second generation. So to develop a formal plan, first you need to identify a leader that you want to groom into the next CEO position. Lay out the specific job requirements that you wish to seek out of the next leader. Define the roles that he will be doing and let him go ahead and practice those roles before he is in the actual position itself. Within creating a plan, you will be ready for an emergency in case the current CEO needs to step down for some unforeseen circumstances like illness or death. The next step is to develop your leader. That would be through training, such as formal training, letting him do various jobs throughout the business that a typical CEO would do. And you want to make sure that your next leader will be competent. And then the next step would be to make your plan flexible in case anything happens, such as the current prospect needs to move businesses or is deemed not able to create a successful CEO. Many family businesses often void the plan. This is for many reasons, such as it involves the CEO's mortality. Nobody really wants to talk about their own death, and it's just a very hard situation and conversation to have with your family. Many businesses also assume it will be simple. 3 out of the 4 businesses we interviewed did not even have a session plan at all. They just assumed that, for say, their daughter would take over or their son would take over. And this didn't allow them to create a formal succession plan because they just thought it would be simple. But succession plans are actually very complex. There's many moving parts. So since they didn't create a plan and they just made assumptions, it will be very difficult for them in the future to create a smooth transition of power.
First, I would like to discuss the different types of implementing when it comes to succession. For instance, you don't want to start a succession plan unless it's going to help your company grow. And also because succession has the different types of benefits for the owner and as well as the employees. The clients and other stakeholders, such as, the increased time and how to do it and how passionate the individuals are, as well as so it can grow your clientele. The sustained long-term growth, the ability to attract and retain better talent, attract a younger clientele, and greater service capacity. That can come into how the social media marketing is ran for the company, because when it comes to attracting the younger clientele, you want to be able to grasp towards that audience. You want to know what questions to ask when discussing the succession plan amongst the company, and you also want to know what questions they don't know what to ask, and what to say and how to say it and when to say it. Especially, for example, we interviewed a company and they did not have a succession plan. They pretty much just knew how they wanted to grow the company, but they didn't have the exact steps on how they wanted the company to grow and how they were going to do those steps. And this can play a factor of how a advisor could come in, a counselor, a family counselor for the business can come in and go over those steps to help the company grow and how to do that, and also teach one another how to communicate when it comes to trying to discuss the succession plan. For instance, you could have the owner of the company, if they're having problems with one of the employees and they're not knowing how to operate within the business with other individuals, you can sit down with them one-on-one and discuss how this is affecting the company growing, because that plays a factor into the succession plan. And you can start the conversation off by saying, hey, I just want to discuss, like, everything is okay. You don't want to start off with being hard with them. You want to work your way into it and then narrow down and tell them the ways that they can work on it, because that can only benefit you in the long run and as well as your company by sitting down and discussing those issues. Knowing the factors of the succession plan and the action plan and the accurate sources are very important when it comes to implementing a succession plan, just for the simple fact that if you don't have those accurate sources, then how can you grow? If you don't have the plan, the steps and the initiative to work with one another, then you're not going to be able to have the access to growing your company, because you want your company to be something that's going to last forever when it comes to a family business, not something that's going to last just for a year or two, which is why it's important to determine the plan. And that is where Autumn is going to discuss the next following steps.
So only 1 out of the 4 businesses that we interviewed really had a succession plan and talked about it. One of our businesses just assumed that the business would end unless their son decided to take it over, and they had no discussion. So a lot of family businesses are afraid to talk about succession, or they just don't see the importance in it. But it provides in-house replacements, so it allows others in the company to be able to move up once they are trained. It provides challenging career opportunities for the employees that work for the company, and it prepares individuals for the future. It sets them up to succeed, makes the organization more appealing to new talent. So if you have no succession plan, it makes others not want to join the company because they're unclear of the future and where they're going to go. And increases an organization's chance of survival. So if the company wants to survive several generations, a succession plan is crucial. But to prepare the next generation, it's important to sit down and talk to the new generation about their goals and their vision for the company and what they plan to do. And gaining outside experience is really important too, because they can bring new and fresh insight into the company.
Well, now, since you finally made it to the end of the video, it is now kind of like, to recap the video, necessarily what we talked about in the previous, going from the overall importance of what succession is that Carl talked about, creating the succession plan, implementing the succession plan, the importance of a succession plan, and how next generation, how these different businesses prepare for next generation's succession. So, earlier, Lakira kind of talked about the importance of succession plan and like what it meant to basically implement into like their businesses, as far as like creating the development of a formal plan, leadership development, and allowing like different flexibility. These are very important aspects to know when talking within a family business, because if you don't have that, your business will not necessarily succeed and strive. And then Cole opened it up pretty much talking about what the foundation of succession looks like, and how some businesses, 3 out of the 4 businesses we talked with, didn't even really kind of have a succession plan. And that kind of worries me just, to an extent, because you need to be able to, function as a business and understand the importance of your business by having different mission statements, visions, and things like that. Implementing the plan, without having an actual plan, you won't be able to see growth. You won't be able to see your numbers increase or even see decrease, because within the increase and decrease, you're able to see if you're making, the necessarily progress or possibly decreasing. Having that determined plan and having an active plan will take your business so far, and it will just pretty much do a lot for your business moving forward. the importance of a succession plan, kind of talked about a little bit briefly, as well as my group. You know, it's very important because if you don't have that succession plan, it provides, you know, in-house replacement. It allows more structure because having structure in a business will take you so far. It allows different things that you won't get without having a succession plan. And then another thing that Alan pretty much talked about, which is really important to highlight, is the next generation / transition. As we talked about, most businesses feel comfortable just letting maybe their grandchild or their child take over the business without proper translations and transitions, just off of like, you know, just because they've been around. But like I said, if they don't have the proper training or they don't have the proper, you know, adequate, you know, positions to do that, they're going to find themselves in a hole necessarily. And we don't want that to happen within these businesses, because 3 out of the 4 businesses that we like interviewed, they had great businesses, but they're trying to figure out how to take it necessarily to the next level, to say the least. So from the succession plan, creating the succession plan, implementing the succession plan, importance of the succession plan, and that transition of next generations to, you know, proper adequate, we have basically as a group we're honored to interview these businesses because it's going to allow us to apply it to the next steps we might take as, you know, young adults, being able to apply these resources into these businesses if we're going to consulting and things of such. So we appreciate you for your time and for your efforts for allowing us to come into your businesses and help grow and see problems that you might not know as. So like I said, once again, on behalf of my group and myself, we thank you for doing that.